Mm-hmm. Hello, everyone. Happy Monday. Happy Monday. I hope everyone is doing okay today. I know it's right before 7, so we're going to let it play a little bit, and then we're going to get started. I hope everyone is having a great Monday. Happy Monday. Happy Monday. I don't know about you guys, but I had a fun-filled Monday weekend. I did. I celebrated my birthday, and it was amazing. People showed up and they showed out. So I am so grateful that everyone showed up on Friday for my birthday. I had a wonderful, wonderful birthday party, and I'm so excited for all of those who came out. So I got used to this hair, y'all. This hair is, I got used to it. I got to do something with it. But anywho, it is 7 p.m., 7:01 actually. On Monday, it is March 9th, 2026. And today's episode is we're talking about self-confidence or self-sabotage, and pretty much why do we do it. And I thought this would be a good topic, mainly because I think sometimes people like to say that they're confident when they may not be. All right. So, welcome back to Healing Unlocked, another episode 8. This is stories of calm and self discovery brought to you by me, myself, Dr. Tasha Rose, a licensed professional counselor. I am super excited to be here tonight to talk with you guys, to have a conversation. These conversations are getting better and better each time. So I thank you. Happy Women's Month. I know that is Women's Month. I was going to have a guest tonight, but we had to reschedule that. But it's okay. And so my question to you today is, are you walking in confidence or are you secretly self-sabotaging? Now, remind yourselves, this is not just for women. So if you have a husband, a partner, a son, a brother, anyone, tell them to subscribe, tell them to get on, because these conversations are for everyone. Again, yes, I work with a lot of women, and I do faith-based therapy, but this is a space for men and women to come together and have crazy, happy conversations. And the reason why I said crazy is because sometimes we think the things that was going to hurt us are the things that brought us to spaces that are way better than we imagined. So thank you for joining in to another episode. This is episode 8. So please let me know who's in here. Let me know. Say hello in the chat. Because sometimes, again, we fear, we look at humility, but it's really, we say that we are humble, but we're really fearful. So if you are someone who feels like you're a humble person, that's why you don't put anything in the chat. I wanna kind of like push you to do something and put your name in the chat. Say hello. Ask some questions. I love to answer the questions because sometimes we think it's humility, but a lot of times it's because we're fearful. So understand that. We also know that sometimes self-confidence can also look at, it can also be a sense of avoidance. And then also sometimes we call confidence. What we call confidence could just be ego. And I know last week we talked a little bit about that as well, but this week we're going to talk a little bit deeper into what if you're actually being confident or you self-sabotaging. All right. So thank you, Sade, Renee. Thank you, Chef and Jordan. Good evening. Good evening. Thank you for joining. I hope that you all are having a great Monday. It was a beautiful Monday. I walked like 3 times today, and I'm like, I know we're gonna go back to cold a couple of a couple of days from now, but right now I'm gonna soak it all up. So if you're in Connecticut, I hope you enjoyed it. If you're not and you have other, like you're in another space and it's really, really warm, please tell me how many degrees it is. All right. So again, welcome, welcome. So my first thing is self-confidence is belief in one's ability to meet challenges and handle outcomes. That is what confidence is. It is really your ability to handle outcomes in a positive space, right? Just because you're confident doesn't mean that you're going to get everything right all the time. It just means that you know what your abilities are and you're going to work towards having positive outcomes, right? The psychological terms could be self-efficacy, and that's belief in your ability to execute behaviors necessary to produce outcomes, right? So basically, being able to control yourself, being able to uh, deal with things when in a mature way, right? I'm confident in what I say, right? Because I do have some facts behind it. However, there might be other ways that we can handle it, but my response, I'm still confident in it, right? That's that self-efficacy, right? So we know that confidence is not arrogance. We know that confidence is not loudness, and we know that self-confidence is not perfection. And it's definitely not control. Some people they say they're highly confident, they are control freaks. They want everything their way. They're not willing to listen to anyone. And so they become controlling. And that is not confident. Confidence should not make you feel like you have to control everything. Confidence just means that you've worked on things, you research, but you're still open to hear other ideas and opinions. Confidence is emotionally stable, right? You have to be emotionally stable in order to have confidence, right? When you see someone who's always crashing out, always just like on 10 for no reason, that's not confidence. Something wrong with them. They might need to come and see me. Confidence is accountability, being able to take accountability when you're wrong, being able to make, if you mess up, you can, you know what, I thought everything was good, but it didn't work out well, right? That doesn't mean that you're not confident. It just means that you're taking accountability for it not working out the way you thought it was going to work out. Secure identity. You're not out here trying to be somebody else. You're not out here trying to gain the attention or the recognition of people. You're not looking for validation. You're not doing all that. You know who you are, and you walk in who you are. You walk in your own identity, right? And if you don't always feel like you're walking in your own identity, you're actually searching for it without trying to go and be someone else. That's confidence. Willingness to try and fail. Let me tell y'all something. I have not always had confidence, right? But when God told me I had to open up my practice and I left my job where I had secure income, I had no idea what I was doing. I was recently going through a breakup. Like, it was a hot mess, but I felt that this was going to go somewhere. Even if it failed, like in the beginning, I knew it was going to go somewhere, right? But I had the willingness to at least try. I had to try. Even though everything else around me was falling apart, I had the confidence to say, I'm going to try this because I know that there is something on the other side for me that's positive. And rather people agree with what I'm doing or not, God has already told me to do it. So that's my confidence, right? So even if it failed, I can't ever say what if. That's confidence. It's not being arrogant, right? So I want to ask you guys, when do you feel most confident? Because I know for me, I feel more confident when I'm walking in my purpose. I know who Tasha Rose is. Forget the doctor, forget the LPC. I know who Tasha is. And that means that I'm able to walk in whatever path or whatever ditch or whatever glory I put myself in. Why? Because that's my identity. So, when do you feel most confident? Right? Is it when you're making decisions for yourself or when you're getting validation from someone else, right? Because if you're making decisions for yourself and they're positive and you're not looking for nobody to give you any feedback or encouragement, or you're not waiting for somebody to tell you what you're doing is okay, that is when you can say, I'm confident in what I'm doing, right? Is your confidence consistent or situational? Some people have this thing where they say that they are confident, but they're only confident when certain things are going their way. But as soon as things turn the other way, they're no longer confident. So that's why I'm asking, like, is it consistent? Are you consistently showing up for yourself? Are you consistently being who you are? Or does it change situational when you're around certain people, right? Or when you know things are going in your favor and things are going to work out well. Are you consistently confident or is it situational? These are questions that I really want you guys to remember. So if you do have a moment, take a moment and get a pen, piece of paper, something, so you can write these things out, because I want you guys to really, really focus on some of these questions, because some of these questions are going to help you or help others around you as we go through these conversations and as you meet people and as you go into different spaces. Yes, Chef and Jordan said that they are consistently confident. Yes, and that's dope. Why? Because when you are consistently confident, no one can shake you. You are taking accountability. You know who you are. You know your flaws. So like, even like with my party, my party planner, she was just explaining to me, like, oh, you don't know what you're doing in this realm. And I'm like, yeah, I know that. I can never tell you that I know anything about putting a party together. I have no idea. I can tell you like what I'm envisioning, but that's it. So I know I'm confident in the fact that I know what I want, but do I actually know how to make that come to life? And that I know I don't. So that's why I have to take accountability and say, I can't do this. Like, I need somebody to bring my that picture, that vision to life. And sometimes people who are overly confident, which I feel too can just be a little bit controlling or self-absorbed, they will say, I'm confident in everything I do because I can do everything, blah, blah, blah. And I'll be like, yeah, no, you can't, because you didn't do that right. You didn't do that well. Well, this happened because it's always an excuse why things didn't work out, because now their stuff is situational. So consistently confidence is going to say that I'm taking accountability, I'm emotionally stable, I'm accountable, I'm secure in my identity, and I'm willing to try and fail. Right. So that is what that is. Because sometimes people will get into their spaces and they will be like, oh, I'm confident, and be just making messes. I'm like, what you over there doing? Like, just sit down, like hire someone, or ask someone for help. I have never been the type of woman that don't ask for help. The problem is I'll ask for help, and sometimes people don't want to help, or they take their time, and then I have to figure it out sometime on my own. But that doesn't mean that I want to do it on my own all the time, right? So I know I'm confident that I can make things work, but I will always ask for help. I don't like messing up stuff. I don't like wasting money. That's the thing. I like, once you become an entrepreneur, like, you're dependent on you. You don't, like, money is different. It's different. Like, I don't want to spend no money on nothing that I'm not really thinking that maybe I'll get a small return. Maybe I'm gonna sell one hoodie. I'm gonna I have to make something. So anywho, so then we're gonna go into self-sabotage. Behaviors that interfere with long-term goals due to fear, low self-worth, or unresolved trauma. Now, y'all know I'm a trauma therapist. So when I hear people talk about self-sabotage or they talk about different things that they're going through, I automatically result to, oh, Lord Jesus, they have some trauma that they have not dealt with, right? And so people with unresolved trauma, people with a lot of fear, a lot of low self-worth, they will self-sabotage in a moment. They will make great, like, things that was supposed to be for their good fail because they have unresolved trauma, they're fearful, and they have low self-worth, right? So we know that low self-worth comes from negative core beliefs. So negative core beliefs are beliefs that we have kind of developed over time due to trauma, bullying, not being seen, not being heard, maybe abusive parents. All these things can come up and it causes us to have negative core beliefs. And then we start walking around saying, I'm not good enough, or somebody don't like me, or anything that happens, it becomes, we're questioning our self-worth. We're questioning if we're good enough. We're questioning if that person's going to be there for us. And so what ends up happening is that when things feel unfamiliar, we start doing things to make it unravel. We will make it unravel because we rather run for the door, or cut things off, or don't try because we're scared of the outcome, because we're so used to being hurt. We're so used to things not falling into place. We're so used to being blamed for things. So therefore, we just say, nope, I'm not going to try. Nope, I'm going to let it go. Oh, this feels so uncomfortable. Oh, this feels unfamiliar. I'm scared. No, we don't want to do that, right? So it says Burgess and Jones, they say, introduced self-handicapping theory. People create obstacles to protect self-esteem if they fail. Y'all, it says self-handicapping theory. That's a self-handicapping theory where people literally will create obstacles in order to protect themselves from failing. Can y'all imagine? Good morning, Patrice. Can y'all imagine just being so fearful, not dealing with the trauma that you have experienced, that you make up things and you put things in the way just so that you don't fail? But in reality, you're still failing. So you're still being handicapped by it, right? It says research in the Journal of Personality and Social Psychology shows people self-sabotage to avoid confronting deeper insecurities. I know so many people with these like deep insecurities where they will self-sabotage the best thing that ever happens in their lives because they are like, oh my gosh, I am not good enough. This cannot be me. Like, I don't deserve this. All the stuff that I've done to people, how I treated this, how I did this, like I've lied, I've cheated. I don't deserve this. This is not fair. This is not right. So what they do, they self-sabotage, right? Those insecurities run deep. Self-sabotage is not something that we can say like, oh, I just did it for ha-has. No, it's a deeper condition when you are actually self-sabotaging yourself due to the fact that you have not dealt with your trauma, your fear, or your low self-worth, right? And then it says trauma research shows avoidant behavior are they're linked to fear of rejection, abandonment, and failure. Y'all, it's so true. Most people with sabotaging backgrounds, which then look at it as being confident or they don't need help with things or whatever, is because at some point in their lives, they felt rejected. At some point in their lives, they felt abandoned. And so what ends up happening is then they start to kind of push that stuff on other people and to say, oh, well, this is just how I am. I don't really need too much to be happy. But in reality, you're scared. In reality, you've been rejected so many times, and more than likely it's by a parent. It's by a guardian. It's by someone that was supposed to love you. They've either abandoned you or made you feel rejected. And I want you to also, guys, I want you to understand that abandonment does not always mean that you're not in, like you left somebody, right? Abandonment means that you're not listening. Abandonment means that you might be raised by a parent who is maybe in an abusive relationship, a parent who's on drugs or has an alcohol problem. Abandonment can look so different than just somebody leaving or not being in a household. So I want you guys to understand when I talk about abandonment, when people talk about abandonment does not mean that person wasn't in the home or wasn't around. It's about how they were made to feel. It's the same thing with rejection, right? If you're a person, you're growing up in a home where your mom or dad is constantly choosing others over you, at some point you're going to feel like you're being rejected, and you're going to start going into things as coming up with negative core beliefs of I'm not worthy. Like they're going to reject me if I don't do this, if I don't be this way. And that's how we end up becoming pleasers or different things like that, right? So self-sabotage is one of those things, guys. It's so layered. It's layered in all of these things. Fear is abandonment, fear of failure. These are things that we deal with on a daily basis that we don't even know, because no one ever took the time to make us understand what abandonment looks like, what fear looks like, what rejection looks like. Society continues to tell us these things in little snippets and stuff, but to be honest, like abandonment shows up in all types of ways. I have people that come into my office and they will talk about stuff, and I'm like, that's abandonment. No, but that was my mother, but they wasn't there for you. You were literally in a home by yourself, or you were literally the mother or the father while you had parents in the house doing whatever they wanted to do. They rejected you as being a child and made you pick up the slack. People don't see that. And then now as an adult, you don't know why. You can't understand why you're controlling, right? You can't understand why things have to go your way. And then you confuse it as confidence, but it's just self-sabotaging, because then other people don't want to be around you, or you put up obstacles why you can't do stuff because somebody told you in order to be this, you got to do this. So now you're feeling like if I don't do this, I'm gonna get rejected. But in reality, you're rejecting yourself. So I want you guys to understand that unresolved trauma, fear, rejection, all that stuff will lead into self-sabotaging behavior, and it will mimic self-confidence. And if you ever have been told that you self-sabotage, or you walk around and laugh and say, oh, I'll be self-sabotaging, stop it. Get help. Figure out why you're doing it and heal from it so you can have healthy, happy relationships with people who actually care about you. Not walking around thinking that you're confident when you're dying inside. So some of the self-sabotaging behaviors or examples would be like procrastination, picking fights when things are going well, like especially in relationships. You see a lot of that in relationships, or maybe like if you're a top exec or something like that, and you're like, I don't deserve this, or this is too good to be true. You'll start to develop these things and start picking fights, or you'll procrastinate to do things because you feel like, oh, I gotta wait until it feels perfect. But the problem is it never feels perfect when you are self-sabotaging. It will always be a reason why you can't do something, because you're fearful. You gotta heal from those things so you're not fearful in doing the things that's going to make you happy. You gotta do it. Overthinking. It will paralyze you. I know people who say like they have paralysis, sometimes sleep paralysis and things like that. You guys got to understand, self-sabotaging will start to show up in your body. Like it will start showing up in your body. That's fear. That is deep-rooted trauma. Staying in toxic dynamics. Being around people who keep going through the same things that you're going through. No one's trying to do better. but you stay in it because you feel like you're seen, you feel like you're heard, like you don't got to worry about failing because everybody around you is failing, and you might look like the only one that's doing something, so you can't even see that you're self-sabotaging. You don't even feel like you're doing something wrong because you might be the only one that look like you're doing something right because of the dynamics that you're in, right? Starting but not finishing. There are so many people who do that, where it's like they start something but they don't finish it. I've been writing a book for 30 years. Why haven't you finished? Because you're scared that it might fail. You're scared that it may never get off the editor's block. Don't worry about it. Just push through. The editor is not your mother. The editor is not your dad. The editor is not the bully in the second grade. You can do it. You can do it. Dismissing opportunities. People will not take a position because they're scared that they will fail at it. And it's like, well, how do you know you're going to fail at it? Well, if somebody above you said, hey, I think this is a good fit for you and you do really well, why would you think you're going to fail? Why? I'm going to tell you why. Because if you are stuck in rejection and fear and abandonment, guess what? Every time you did something well, you never got praise for it. That's why people do that. Because when they did do things well, no one ever praised them. But as soon as they did something that was mediocre or bad, then everybody got something to say, right? Or you're doing something for somebody else that they like, so now you're getting praised. But as soon as you try to do something for yourself, you don't get praised. So now you're dismissing opportunities because you don't believe in yourself. You don't even understand why you're not doing this. You're just like, no, I'm not good enough for it, right? Negative self-talk. How many of us have gone through seasons where we are constantly talking ourselves out of situations? I know I've done it. I've said some negative things about myself, trying to not fall into a space of rejection. And I had to deal with that. I didn't like that. Not at all. I didn't like that at all. So, have you ever ruined something good because it felt unfamiliar? Have you ever ruined something good because it felt unfamiliar? Or let's just say it felt too good. It was too good to be true. That person knew you too well. That person asked you too many questions about things that you were too afraid to expose, right? That job was going to give you more money than you ever seen in your life. And you didn't feel confident enough. That can't happen for me, right? Do you talk yourself out of opportunities? And do you fear success as much as failure? These are some good questions, guys. Not because I made them up, but they are good questions because it makes you think. It puts you in a space where you can say, you know what? Let me see if this is what God wants me to be, or let me see if I'm just saying no because I'm afraid. I want you guys to ask these questions so you can actually pay attention, because sometimes we can be confident in one area, but then we're not confident in another, right? So I don't want you to think that. I want you to go back to the first section when we talked about consistency and inconsistency, right? You want to be consistent with confidence, even if you fail. But sometimes people can be confident in one area and not confident in another. And what ends up happening is that people, like, if they're confident in one area and then they're not confident in another, and then they say, oh, I don't know. What ends up happening is you'll have people in your ear telling you you could do this, you could do this, and you have yourself telling you can't do it. So now what ends up happening is you get stressed out and you miss the opportunity. That's usually what happens when you're not consistent. So I wanted to talk a little bit about the differences, some differences you might see in men and women, because there are some differences. It's not a whole lot, but there are some small and differences how men show uh, self-sabotaging behavior compared to women. So for men, we have overworking and avoiding vulnerability. You do have men who are out here constantly working. They always want to be like busy and, I got to do this, blah, blah, blah. But then it's like when they're going through something, they don't want to talk to you about it. They don't want to express how they're feeling. They want to say that they're tired, they're sad. They don't want to do that. That's a sign in a man, right? And the sign in a woman could be shrinking to be liked, right? That's another thing that a lot of women will do. They will shrink to be liked in certain areas where they don't even want to be, but they're so used to not having anyone love on them or encourage them, so they will shrink to be liked or shrink to fit in. And I'm gonna tell you right now, don't do that, right? So for men, they will overwork and then they're fearful or they avoid vulnerability. And then women, they will shrink to fit in. Another for men is emotional shutdown. A lot of men will shut down when things get too hard for them, or when they're being questioned about something that they may either don't have the answer to, or they're scared to say something that might get they might not get the answer they're looking for, or they might feel less than or something, so they'll shut down and they miss out on opportunities. They miss out on relationships, positive healthy relationships. Women, on the other hand, they may over apologize, and that's also some differences between men and women who self-sabotage, right? We also have for men is ego masking insecurity. You have men who will go off their ego. Like everything about them is ego, but that little boy inside of them is still there. But because if they show you that small part in them that's hurting, that insecurity, that, oh, when I was little, I got bullied because of this, or I had a lisp, or, like I didn't have a lot of money growing up. So I looked a certain way, or my parents couldn't afford things. So I was bullied for not having the nice clothes, or I was dirty or whatever. So now as a grown man, you got egos. Everything got to be in order. You got to always look nice. You got to have the nicest this, have nicest that. You got to be, going broke just to show that you're good, right? Or everybody around you got to show you respect. So anytime a woman says something to you that you feel is not respectful, instead of you having a conversation, it becomes an argument. That's self-sabotaging behavior, and that's how it shows up in men. And then for women, it's imposter syndrome. We don't believe that we belong in any space. We don't believe that we belong in any space. Like, we just cannot believe that we're good enough. And then for men, the last one would be fear of appearing weak. A lot of men will think that if they become vulnerable, or if they show that, oh my goodness, like, I'm struggling in this area, somebody will talk down to them. But I will say, to our new age, a lot of these young women, it's not the old one, but a lot of these young women, they expect men to be like put together at all. Like a man cannot come to a woman if they don't have all their stuff together. But a woman can go to a man or be under a man if they don't have all their stuff together. I don't necessarily agree with that, because I feel like at some point, why is it okay for the woman to always be like not in a good space, but a man can't ever not be in a good space? And that could be another debate. That could be another topic. But I feel like sometimes women can expect so much from men that men will become very like fearful to be honest or say certain things, because they don't want to be looked at as weak, or not good enough. Or if a man says, I'm not really a fighter, I don't do this, they want to call him names, right? So we want to be careful with that as well. But this is why a lot of men will self-sabotage. And then for the last one is for women is people pleasing. How many of you women that are on here are people pleasers? How many of you will people please in order to get what you feel is the attention that you're looking for, right? So another question would be, do you shrink or do you overcompensate? Do you do those things? One of the things I realized that people with trauma do is they overcompensate, especially when they have children. And I see it in both men and women, where if it's a dad who wants to really be in the kid's life, but for whatever circumstance they can't, or maybe they messed up the relationship and the mom is upset, what they start to do is overcompensate with doing so much for these kids or their children or whatever, doing just overly doing, making sure they're having fun and everything, while not really making sure that they're good on their own. Right? I see a lot of women doing that as well, where they will overcompensate in relationships with their children if the dad isn't around, or if they feel like, oh, well, these bad things happen, they will start to overcompensate because in their mind, it's like, I got to make sure that they don't dislike me and they don't leave me. Right? And that's on both sides. That's men and women. Do you self-sabotage relationships more than careers? Right? Do you have are you confident in your career, but then in your relationships, you sabotage them, right? What is it about those two things? Well, one is a career. It's okay if you got to move on, right? Okay, but for a relationship, you've built you built some kind of like bond. There's emotional attachment to it. So sometimes people would rather sabotage the relationship other than sabotaging their work, right? Because at work they can kind of like avoid things. So I'm gonna self-sabotage my relationship, but I'm gonna just like fold into my job. Is your self-doubt louder than your capability? Sometimes we doubt ourselves so much that we can't see the fact that we're capable. We're capable of doing anything and everything that we put our minds to. No one is born with just talent that they don't have to work for. Everyone has to work for anything. I don't care if you were Kobe Bryant or LeBron James, you have to work hard. Right? You have to work hard. You have to put the hours in. So don't self-doubt. Are you capable of starting new? Are you capable of being better? Are you capable of healing? And if the answer is yes, then work on it. Do better. Be better. Stop running. Stop looking for ways out of things and go into it. Be accountable so that you're not self-sabotaging things that are there to help you, that there's to promote you, things that are there to help you be more stable emotionally. Right? So I will say that self-sabotaging also has some positive things for the short term. All right. So we're going to talk about that. Any questions, anything, anything that anybody has to say before we go into some of the things that self-sabotage behaviors do protect us from? All right. So self-sabotage also often protects us from rejection, abandonment, exposure, responsibility, success, which changes your identity. So let me go into that first. So when you are successful, sometimes your identity will change a little bit. Doesn't mean that you're a mean person or you're trying to think you're better than the other. But if you become successful, there are things that's going to have to change. You have to do things differently. You have to stay out of certain spaces. You can't do the things that you used to do. And it doesn't always mean that you're forgetting about the little people, right? It just means that there is a different capacity now, and it's a different safety. So sometimes you have to change because success will change you to do more. And sometimes in order to do more, The identity in which you are in has to change. Now, when I was working as a paralegal, that was my, like, I was a paralegal. And, I didn't have to really go to college to be a paralegal. So, yeah, I can make good money. But once I went back to school and became a therapist and a doctor, I had to change. I had to, like, my identity changed a little bit because I was in a different level. I was in different rooms. I was doing different things. Doesn't mean that I didn't remember who I was. It just means that now I have to change. I have to pivot a little bit. I'm still loving, happy Tasha, but there's certain things I can no longer do. So the identity of hanging out in the club or going to the bar, I can't go to those places anymore. That part of me is not there. I'm not the bar person. I'm not the club girl anymore, right? And now I'm in these spaces where people are like, oh, now that she think this, I can't let you make me feel bad about that. Used to be. Yep. Yep. And then it says it is a defense mechanism to do all those things, right? So it's not laziness, it's just a defense mechanism. So self-sabotaging behavior is not always bad, y'all. It's not always bad. Yes, walking different. Yeah, it's like we have to walk different. Like, even when you go from being like unsaved to saved, it takes time. Some people think that, she don't got saved or he don't got saved and he's still out here doing X, Y, and Z. Just because you get saved doesn't mean your life is going to change overnight. It takes time. It takes patience. It takes repetition. But what ends up happening is that people expect this miracle thing of, as soon as you get here, things are supposed to just be totally different. No, we walk different as we learn how to heal, as we learn how to be in a different space. And that's just what it is. Trauma research shows familiarity feels safer than growth. I'm going to stay where I'm faithful. I'm going to stay where I'm familiar. So if that's toxicity, that's where I'm going. If I want to be chaotic all the time, that's where I'm staying. Right? If everybody knows me as a jokester, as a ladies' man, as a, let's say, like a sugar mama, whatever it is, right? If somebody knows me as the plug, like, I'm gonna stay where people know me, because if I move, I might get rejected, right? I might get rejected. So that I'm gonna stay in this space that's not bringing me any joy, any love, any happiness. Because if I move, I might get rejected over here. So I'm gonna stay in the toxic space, right? If I go from being, me and my cousin was talking, if I go from being a blue collared person to a white collared person, then I'm gonna lose all my blue collared friends. And now the people in the white collar, they might reject me because I came from blue collar. All these things we do sometime as a safety mechanism. And I'm telling y'all right now, if you are a woman or a man of God, you don't have to be worried about all of that. If you move the way that God, if you actually go to God for everything you do, you don't gotta move like that. Because those things that you're trying not to walk into, God is always gonna protect you. He's going to protect you from it. The problem is when you start doing things and then once things start falling apart, then we're like, oh God, help me, help me, help me, help me. He don't help you, but you're gonna have to go through some stuff first. So also too, we got to think about your nervous system. Your nervous system prefers predictability, pain over unpredictable changes. If you are constantly a person who has headaches, your body is used to the headaches. And then as soon as you're the headaches change, you're not having headaches. It's like, oh my gosh, what's going on? I have no headaches. Now you're freaking out because your nervous system is freaking out, right? If you're always like in fear mode, if you're always in rejection mode, or you're always in abandonment mode, your nervous system has kicked up and it's always got you on high alert. So trigger words, people do something that you feel like is disrespectful or they're about to hurt you, expose you, you automatically go guard up. You don't even know, you sometimes you don't even know it's happening. You don't even know that it's happening because you're so like your body, your nervous system is like, no, I'm about to protect you, bruh. I'm about to protect you. And if you don't pay attention to it, your nervous system will take over your logic. So you have to really, really pay attention to the things that you've gone through and behaviors that are not healthy. Anything that stops you from succeeding or being happy, like truly happy, is trauma. Deal with it. Call me, 860-656-9333. Let's set it up. Because I want you guys to be healthy, happy, in relationships with anything, whatever the relationships, jobs, family members, intimate relationships, just having a good relationship with your neighbor. But you can't do that if you're so traumatized, if you have so much trauma that everything makes you stay on guard. So I asked you earlier to write, to get a piece of paper or something. So this one, I would like for you to write down one goal that you say you want. I want you to write that down. And then I want you to write one behavior that blocks it, right? And then I want you to write what fear might be underneath that behavior. And then the last one is, if I believed I was enough, what would I do differently? I really want you guys to take time to answer those questions. One of my goals that I say that I want all the time is I would like to have my own building, right? I have not put a time frame on it, but that's one of my goals. And I know I need to put a time frame on it. Don't be coming for me, but I know I have it, but I will. One behavior that blocks it is I have this behavior of wanting to help people. And so sometimes it puts me in a space where I'm not helping myself, right? Just very transparent, y'all, very transparent. What fear might be underneath that behavior? Other people failing and not getting what they want, right? And that shouldn't be my responsibility, but I'm just being honest with y'all. And then if I believed I was enough, what would I do differently? I actually do believe that I am enough, but I think that what I would do differently is sit with people and help them do or get what they're needing the same way that I'm doing for myself, right? And that's what I'm learning to do more now. Instead of always offering, I'm more so like waiting or talking through and trying to create things together. So that's something that I'm doing differently, because I do believe that I am enough. I do believe that, but I'm always trying to help others and make sure that people have things that they need to succeed. And sometimes I get the shorter end of the stick, right? And that's something that I know that over the last 2.5 years, God has really been working on me with, and I've been doing much better. But these are things that I have to continue to work through. And so eventually I know I'm going to have that. One of my goals too is to not only have that, but have a partner with it, like have a husband with that. Like, so I'm my goal is not very small. My goal is a very specific goal. And so I'm excited to be able to have the transparency to talk about these things and have this conversation with you guys, because the goal is to help people heal, help people be different. and not stay in spaces that keep them stagnant, but help people develop in ways or heal through the trauma and the fear and the low self confidence. Because a lot of what I see are people dealing with self-sabotaging behaviors and not self-confidence. But people are saying, oh, I'm confident, I'll do this, I'll do that, but you're really not. You're walking in a space of self-sabotaging behavior and you're not even aware of it. We all have some type of self-sabotaging behavior, and mine is helping. I have self-sabotage a lot because sometimes I overhelp. It's the truth. It's the truth. So, sometimes it's helpful. It's not bad, but if you're doing it a little bit much, or if it stops you from reaching your goal, then you have an issue, and that is self-sabotaging. Like, oh, I just have a good heart. Yeah, but why is it that everyone's stuff becomes your stuff? Or why is it that you rather someone else have it before you? It's not always about a good heart. It's about going deeper. And so when I'm like I told you guys, like this conversation podcast is not just to just give y'all education. This is real stuff that people are dealing with, including myself, even as a therapist, even though I work with people, I still have my own stuff. I still have to sit on my therapist couch sometime. Every month I have to have a conversation because there are things that goes on that you don't even realize it, because we're like, she's so confident, he's this, he's that, oh, he's such a this or she's such a that, but nobody really pays attention to sometimes people in the that you most look up to, or you feel like has the best whatever, they have the most issues with self-sabotaging. I used to be that person. I used to be. But now I'm working on that one little thing that I feel like I'm blocking. And I can say right now, I've done so much work, and thank you, Jesus. I've done so much work. Yes. Yes, it can definitely stop you from your own goals. The more you help people over making sure you good. I'm not saying that sometimes you can't help somebody who's in need, right? I'm not saying that, but I'm talking about everybody that you talk to and they say something's going on. I can do this, I can do that, knowing that you haven't even gotten yourself in order. So you have to pay attention to it, and you have to understand where it's coming from. We don't always understand that. We don't always see it because we have been lied to. We have been not given the proper information, the proper tools. And so that's why I'm doing this, y'all, because these are things that people are dealing with or doesn't even know that they're dealing with. And I just want people to feel better, handle things differently, right? So be honest. How many of you pray for blessings but sabotage the preparation? I'm going to read that again. How many of you pray for blessings but sabotage the preparation? Well, I will say that there have been times in my life where I've prayed for God to do something and I got a little bit uneasy or impatient, and then it was just like, boom, I'm going to try to do it myself. I messed up the whole preparation. I don't sabotage the preparation because God's like, once you in it, I can't do nothing. Now we got to start all over. We all have done it because things aren't moving as fast as we want them. So now we in there trying to do things and we had no business there. And we don't even realize that we're self-sabotaging. We don't think that. We're like, oh, I was just trying to help. Who are you helping? If he told you to wait. If it's not your time, it's not your time. If you're not supposed to leave a job, don't leave. If you're supposed to leave a job, leave. If you're supposed to leave a relationship, leave. If you're supposed to stay in the relationship, stay. Stop trying to do these things on your own. We will pray for things and ask God to do these things, but then we always trying to jump up and do it ourselves because we're afraid. We're afraid of the outcome. But in reality, the outcome will always be a mess if you're scared of the preparation. Sometimes our preparation may look messy, but it's for our own good. So we talk about, is self-sabotaging healthy? It can be, like I said, for a short term, but for long term, no. It is not a healthy thing to self-sabotage, and it's definitely not confidence. It's a trauma response. It's fear. It can even be anger, because some people will self-sabotage because they're petty. You hurt them, so they're going to hurt you back. Right? Confidence grows through small wins, taking your time with things, emotional regulation, being able to converse, being able to understand what you feel, why you're feeling it, self-awareness, understanding what's going to make you upset. Not stop expecting people to do things that you're not going to do. Right? Be aware of that. You can't expect somebody to respect you, but you're not respecting them. You can't expect somebody to love you, but you don't want to love them. Accountability is big, y'all. Accountability is one of them things that if you don't accept accountability, you might as well just stay in the house, be a hermit. Because without accountability, everything's going to fail. Everything's going to fail. Even if you have good wins for a couple of moments or years or whatever, at some point, without accountability, everything's going to crumble. And then faith-rooted identity. And the reason why I say faith-rooted identity, because I'm not sure if everyone is a Christian on this on the podcast, but you gotta have some type of faith in God. As a Christian, I believe that Jesus, I am rooted in Jesus, because I know for sure that without him, I wouldn't be the woman that I am today. I wouldn't be able to sit here and chat with you guys today. So I know I am rooted in him. And I'm going to continue to stay rooted in him, because I believe that everything that I've ever prayed for will come to pass. Everything. But does that mean that I'm perfect? Does that mean I'm not going to mess up? No. But it does mean that when I find or I feel myself self-sabotaging, I'm going to call it out and I'm going to help change it. I'm going to heal through it. I'm not going to say I'm confident over something just because I feel like it's unsafe for me to change. I'm going to listen more. I'm going to not always offer help just because someone is in need. Sometimes you have to have that discernment, right? To know when to open your mouth and offer. But sometimes people are just venting, and they don't always need you to offer. They may want you to, but you may not have the opportunity. You may not be in the space to offer. And that's when discernment comes in. That's when you have to go to God before you open and reply and say, oh yeah, I'm going to help you. Because one of the things too, what ends up happening is when you're that person who always helping others, if you ever need help and no one's around, it makes you feel bad, right? Even if it's not the same type of help. Like just somebody showing up for you and you like, I always show up for this person. They don't never show up for me, because you wasn't supposed to. You did it because of fear of abandonment. You did it because you wanted somebody to like you. You did it because you felt like that's how you be seen. You know? So confidence is not the absence of fear. It's the decision not to let fear run your life. There's going to be times where we're going to be fearful. But like God said, he didn't give us the spirit of fear. He didn't. But we are flesh and we are sinners, so it's going to be in us. But when those things happen, we got to learn how to send it back to him. We have to allow him to walk with us or guide us so that we don't fall into our own ways. A lot of times we try to do things on our own, and that's how we end up failing harder than we would have if we just at least tried the way that God, or walked the way that God wanted us to walk. And then what would your life look like if you stopped blocking your own growth? And who would you become if you trusted yourself? And again, 2 Timothy 1:7. God has not given us the spirit of fear, but given us love and a sound mind. Sorry. But I will say I had a great time tonight. I hope that you guys enjoyed this session. This segment, this episode number 8. I am so excited to have brought it to you tonight. Please pay attention to how you're moving. Pay attention to how people are moving around you. You know, sometimes you don't always have to say things to people who self-sabotage. I would say start praying for them. Ask God to help their heart or heal their heart, right? Ask God to help you have the right words to say to get them to do more or to get out their own way. You know, sometimes it's not easy when it's a person who you love, like a spouse or child or sister or brother, that's constantly self-sabotaging. But I'm going to tell you guys, if you start praying and you start speaking with love, and when they speak back at you with other things, you got to continue to speak to them in love. Because this behavior is a behavior that was created from trauma. And sometimes if you have not dealt with your trauma, you will think that is confidence. You will think that you are doing the right thing, when in reality, you are messing up God's plan for you. So that is what I had to say tonight. I pray that you all have a wonderful, wonderful week, and have a great one. It's your girl, Dr. Tasha Rose, your transparent sister in women's healing. And remember, I love you and God loves you too. Peace.